Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new here, this is my 23-year-old BMW 1150 GS with 91,000 miles on the clock. I've had it coming up for 5 months, and to say I've had a few problems with it would be an understatement. Start with, the battery went flat and died, so to replace the battery I had to take the fuel tank off. When I took the fuel tank off, I found there was loads of water and debris in the bottom of the fuel tank, so I then had to have a new fuel pump, reline the petrol tank and fit a new battery. I also found the rear brake cylinder was leaking. That had to be replaced. The rear shock absorber has been swapped. The fork seals have also been replaced. The start motor failed, and that caused the new battery to short out, so I then had to have another new battery. I've also had to replace the headstock bearings, and the bike still has some other ongoing issues that we'll talk about in a minute. So would anybody in their right mind decide to take this 23-year-old bike with 90,000 miles on the clock on the biggest adventure of its life? Probably not. So what is this trip I want to take this bike on? Well, my good friend Helmet Head, if you don't know who he is, I'm sure most of you do, but if you don't know who he is, look up Helmet Head on YouTube and you'll find him. He is currently riding his monkey bike around the world, stopping at different places, leaving his bike there, flying home, working to raise more money to pay to do the trips, then flying back out and riding his bike a bit further, each leg at a time, as he can and when he can afford it. And this is on a monkey bike, a Honda monkey bike, little small 125. So he said to me, why don't you come out on one of the legs and come and ride with me? And which is something I've wanted to do since he's been doing it, so I agreed I would. So in October he is flying out from the UK to Gibraltar to pick his monkey bike up again, and he will be getting a ferry from Gibraltar in Spain across to Tangier in Africa, and he's going to be riding from there down to the Sahara. So he invited me to come along, and I thought what a good idea that would be. Originally he said, why don't you fly out there, hire a bike and come and ride with me? I thought that would be a good idea, be a good adventure. But why make it easy? Why do it on a scooter or a bike out there? Why not take my adventure bike? This very reliable adventure bike that has caused me no problems. Why don't I take this? Why not? Well, that's what I'm going to do. So in October, well, before October, I'm going to ride this bike out there. So the plan is, so Helmet Head is going to fly out on the 3rd of October to go and pick his monkey bike up, which is a Tuesday. I'm going to finish work on the Friday and aim to ride this bike all the way from Desborough in Northamptonshire all the way down to Gibraltar and meet him for the Tuesday morning. That is a total of about 1,500 miles if I take the most direct route, which I won't be able to on this bike because it doesn't meet the French air standards. So I will have to go around all the zones in France where you need the French air sticker to drive through. So I have from Saturday, Sunday and the Monday to ride the 1,500 miles all across France and all across Spain to meet Helmet Head on Tuesday morning. So that's going to be one hell of a ride on this bike in 3 days. I've never done anything like that before, and it's going to be a killer. So I've got to get this bike ready to do it. Once I meet up with Helmet Head, we will then be getting the ferry from Gibraltar, or near Gibraltar, across to Tangier. That will be on the Tuesday, the 3rd of October. We then have a week and 2 days, I think, the following Thursday. Helmet Head has to fly back. I think that might be wrong. I think that is right. So Helmet Head has to be back in Gibraltar for the following Thursday. So I think that gives us 9 days, probably 8 days to get to the Sahara and back. Now that distance isn't too bad, but this is Africa. This is going to be going across the Atlas Mountains. This is going to be going from Morocco across the Atlas Mountains to the Sahara Desert. So the mileage on that isn't massive, but the roads aren't good. There's going to be all the kind of things that you expect to find in Africa that are going to cause us problems. No doubt we're going to have a few issues, and I'll be riding my yellow GS alongside his yellow monkey bike, which in itself, the speed difference and all the rest of it, that's going to be a tale on its own. So once we have got to Sahara, we're then going to ride back, maybe a different way, maybe not, we don't know. We're going to see how we're doing for time. Once we get back, we will then get the ferry again from Tangier back to Gibraltar, or near Gibraltar, where Alan, Helmet Head, will then get a flight back to the UK and come home. I will then be left in Spain, in Gibraltar, with the big yellow GS, and I will then have to ride back all that way, all again, to get back and make sure I'm at work for the following Monday. So I'll be doing the route twice, and I will have to do it in equally as many days. So this bike has to be 100% ready to go. So this bike is going to be covering probably somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 miles on this trip. Just to get there from here to the Sahara is the shortest distance, 2,100 miles, I think. So it's never going to be the shortest distance. It's going to be a lot longer. So I'm anticipating we're going to be doing 5,000 miles on this, maybe even more. Who knows? Could this bike make it in this current state? No, absolutely not. So what have we got to do to get it ready to go on this trip? Behind me now, I now have this rather fancy bit of whiteboard with a list on it. Tyres. The tyres I put on when I got the bike were just part warns because I didn't know if I was keeping the bike or what was going on with it, so I just put part warns on. And obviously to do that sort of mileage, it's going to need a new set on before I even set off, because by the time I get back they're going to want replacing anyway. So tyres. The clutch. On this bike, to do the clutch, all of this has to come off. The gearbox on this bike is bolted on here. So to get to the clutch, which is here, we have to take all of this off. A lot of work. This will come off and be folded up out of the way. Everything else has to come off to get to the clutch. Now then, that in itself is an undertaking on this bike. It's a big job and not for the faint of heart. But what else we've got to do? The next job on the list is the suspension. The rear shock, although it was a replacement, is not fantastic. It still does have some issues. Although it's not leaking, the actual function of it is not great. And up under here, there is another shock absorber. On this bike, you have the forks, which are just filled with oil, and up here, there is another shock absorber. And this is also leaking. Back on the list, brake pads. These are going to want changing all the way around because they're all half worn, and another 5,000 miles they're going to be gone. The rear brake disc is in terrible condition on this bike. It's got great big lips on the edge, it's pitted, it's marked, it's worn, it's no good. The front discs, I will see how the spending goes. We might replace those because they're not great, but they might have to do. The alternator. Now those of you who have been watching for a while know that I checked the alternator a little while ago when I was having some issues that turned out to be the starter motor. I had some wiring issues to the alternator. The alternator wasn't at fault, but I ordered another alternator anyway. That's here. I'm actually going to put that on because it hasn't done 90,000 miles. It's in a lot better condition. The throttle bodies. Another ongoing issue. I cannot balance these throttle bodies. They have got an air leak. Again, they're worn, they've probably not ever been properly serviced or had anything replaced on them. I can't get them balanced. Whenever I try and balance them, that I'm sure there is an air leak on one side, so the throttle bodies need a rebuild. Next on the list, the fairing brackets. Let's have a look. Now here, on this lovely Touratech front end that's on it, it's upgraded, but it moves quite a bit. Now when I got the bike, I just thought that's how it was, until I saw this. Down here are the brackets that hold the front end on. Now what you can't see on the camera is that the welds have snapped across the bottom here. They need welding back on. Next, I've got pannier brackets. I've fixed the Lomo panniers on this bike. I put the pannier brackets on, but fixing the Lomo bags to the brackets is a pain. So what I need to do is make a plate to go on the pannier racks so I can make it easier for strapping the Lomo bags to, or the pannier bags, because otherwise it is a complete faff and will be such a nightmare doing that every day, taking them on and off, that it will be that I need to sort it out. I need to do something with it. Fuel can, because of the distances I'm doing, I want to be able to take an additional fuel can to carry some extra fuel. She's a thirsty old girl. I could put the bigger tank on it, but I'm not going to spend the £400 or £500 that people want for those bigger tanks on these, so I will need to take an additional fuel can. That's going to have to be bolted on somewhere. Tools. I need to take some extra tools, so somewhere I need to be able to carry those tools. I'm thinking of putting a toolbox on there, small toolbox, a little something, so I can slide a few tools in and get them out of the way. Obviously it's going to need an oil change before we go. Heated grips if I can. It's going to be the beginning of October. It's going to get cold in the evenings, it's going to be cold in the mornings. Might be a luxury. I might not get it done, probably won't get it done. But also going up and over the Atlas Mountains, it would be nice to have heated grips. Probably won't happen. The MOT, as it stands, the MOT runs out on this bike tomorrow. I've not been organised enough, or haven't had time to get it MOT'd before it runs out. So now I'm going to have to get it done before it goes, which is probably going to be once the work's done. Cam chain tensioner. On these bikes, they're well known for having a little tick or a little knocking noise or tapping noise on tick over, and it is one of the cam chain tensioners. It's a common fault. Any of you that know about the GS's will know that it's a good upgrade to do. I would like to do it before we go, but it's another £75 or so to do it. Again, it will come down to funds, all the rest of it, if I can do it. If I can, I'm going to. And last on the list, oil leaks. Now then, this bike has got a couple of ongoing oil leaks. Nothing major. What they're going to be like in 4,000 or 5,000 miles time though. Again, down here, let's have a look. Now around this front casing and on the fins down the side there, there's a fair bit of oil and a fair bit of oil seeping out. Now I would like to investigate this and see if we can get this repaired, get the gaskets changed that are causing this oil leak. Because obviously I don't want this to get worse and start causing me problems while I'm on the road. Can I get all this done in time before I go away? Currently, it's the first weekend in August, but I go on holiday next weekend with the family, so that's next weekend and the weekend after, no work being done. By the time realistically I get to do any work on this bike, it's probably going to be the last weekend, or the last couple of weekends in August. And then I've September, but I set off on the last weekend in September, or the very last. It's probably the 30th of September I think I set off, so the first weekend in October. So I have to get all of that done, get this bike re-MOT'd and get it back on the road in time to set off then. Can it be done? I'm hoping so. I'm going to make it happen, make sure it's done, because I'm taking this bike on the biggest adventure of its life. This bike, despite all its faults, has at some point been loved, and loved a lot, because it's got a lot of tricky bits on it and it has been looked after until probably 10 years ago I think. When I look back at the old MOT history, I can see it's had periods where it's been off the road, it's done little mileage here and there, and clearly it's not been looked after. But this bike wants to do this trip, I guarantee it. Me and Big Yellow here, we're going to do it. So that means a whole new build series for the bike on the channel. So over the next few weeks or month, that's what's going to be coming up on the channel. It's going to be me fixing the bike, getting it ready to do this mammoth trip, and getting all the stuff done, getting all the niggles done, and anything else that crops up, because as anybody knows, when you start these things, it's never simple, it's never plain sailing. There will be a lot of other things that come up that I'll have to deal with. So get used to the in the garage episodes, because that's what it's going to be. But then after that, we're going to have an epic adventure series coming, where this bike's going to go to the Sahara. So to make things easier, here in the garage, I've installed some more lights to give a bit more lighting, make it a bit better for the recording. I've also just bought, off Facebook Marketplace, my favourite place, a bike ramp. So I'll be able to put the bike on the ramp, work on it on the ramp. You know the type I'm talking about. You wheel it on, jack it up, and it comes up. It's going to make it a lot easier for me working on it. It's also going to make it a lot better for me recording and showing you guys what's going on, because when I'm laying on the floor working on the bike, it's very difficult to record. It's very difficult to get the light down there and show you what's going on. So that's coming. So lastly, folks, if any of you have got any parts for one of these that you think I might need, brake pads, disc or anything, because I know some people buy stuff when they have the bike, they sell it on, they get rid of it. If anybody's got anything they'd like to send me or whatever, let me have for the bike, it would be greatly appreciated, because obviously, as you can imagine, this lot is not going to be cheap. Sorting the bike out and doing the trip is going to cost quite a few quid. So if you've got anything, reach out, let me know. I can only say no. Also, I can say check out the merch. I've now managed to launch the merch store, which you should see underneath the video somewhere. If you make the screen smaller again, you should see the Sidekick Solo merch, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, whatever. If any of you would be so good as to buy some of that and maybe wear some of it, that'd be awesome. I haven't got any on yet because I've literally only just sorted it out this week. Mine's in the post, it hasn't arrived in time to do this video. But yeah, if anybody fancies buying any of that, that would be great, because I do get a little bit of that, and that would really help towards it and show you support for the channel. I will be putting more stuff on there. I've got another design that I want to do, and that will be going on there as well. And lastly, buy me a coffee. If you're liking the videos and you feel like you want to treat me to a coffee, there's a link in the description for the buy me a coffee. And if you're feeling a little bit more flush and fancy helping out a little bit more, which would be great, because this is going to cost me a fortune, there's also going to be a PayPal link in there. I know not everybody can, and I don't expect anybody, I don't expect anyone to. If you want to carry on watching these videos, I'm happy to put them out. That's not an issue. I really like people watching and giving me a comment and all the rest of it. But if you feel like you want to support me, that would be fantastic. There is a link in there. No matter how big or small, I would be very grateful. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. This is going to be quite a short, sweet, quick video. I'm telling you what's going on. And we're going to watch out now for the build series on this. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're interested in this, is the first time you've watched my channel, please click subscribe and get notifications, because soon we'll be starting work on this GS and bringing it up to scratch to make this overlanding, going from one continent to another, sorting this bike out, getting it ready. So there's going to be a whole series. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. We'll see you soon when we'll be getting cracking on this bike. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.